everyone. Welcome to our Fairfax Surrogacy Q&A. I'm Perla Piekutowski, Director of Growth and Engagement here at Fairfax Surrogacy. I have over 15 years of experience helping create families via surrogacy and egg donation. And I'm joined today by Susan Taylor, our Surrogate Program Manager.
Hello, everyone. As Perla mentioned, my name is Susan Taylor, and I'm the Surrogate Program Manager here at Fairfax. I am also a two-time gestational carrier myself, and I have been helping create families for the last 10 years. And I'm super excited to talk about one of my favorite topics, matching.
Yes, it's one of our favorite topics, a matching process. And today we're going to be discussing this at length. Well, at length, we have about 30 minutes to talk about it. And we're going to cover as much as we can. So please drop your questions in the chat. But we're going to get started with a few of our own. Susan, let's start with the first question.
Awesome.
So some surrogates ask, and intended parents as well, do I get to specify the type of intended parent I'd like to be matched with?
Absolutely. Our matching process on both sides is everybody chooses each other. During the admissions process, when we first get to know our surrogates, we're not only getting to know their personalities, but we're also asking them a lot of questions about who they want to work with. Do they want to work with someone in a specific state, local to them? Are they open to international intended parents? How many embryos do they want to transfer? What is their termination stance? What kind of communication style do they have? And do they want a relationship throughout the process, post delivery? We're asking all those sorts of questions up front so that we can best identify matches for them.
And the same on the intended parent side, they often come with some ideas of who would be a great surrogate for them based on their specific circumstances. Sometimes they may need a specific state because of the legalities of the process. Or, for example, we may have intended parents who are bilingual but are more comfortable in their own native language. And so we take all of this into consideration when we go into the matching process.
Next question is, how do you make sure intended parents and surrogates are compatible? You want me to take that?
We can both speak about it.
Okay. Well, I will tell you that it's just kind of spins off of what we just talked about. So we already have talked about like the basics, the black and white basically on paper, what you're looking for in a surrogate or in an intended parent. And so when I'm looking at profiles, I'm reading about the surrogate, I'm getting to know her and her personality. And then we're sharing that amongst the team with the coordinators working within the intended parents and vice versa, and just really sharing about personalities and what everybody is looking for in a journey to hope that we are creating the most compatible matches.
Yes, and for example, we're also looking at how many embryos you plan to transfer. Are you wanting to transfer one embryos? Are the surrogates willing to transfer one or two embryos? Your stance on termination, for example. Would you want somebody who is open to terminating a pregnancy for a medical condition? The type of communication you want to have throughout the journey and after your baby is born. There are several different factors, like Susan mentioned, we all talk about them, about what the intended parents are looking for, what the surrogates are looking for, and then we go from there.
Yeah. I think this is an important part too of creating your profile is that you're really sharing about yourself and what you're hoping to get out of this journey on both sides, because it does make it easier when we're looking to match our intended parents with our surrogates to just really have a good understanding of what somebody's personality is like and what they're looking to, who they're looking to match with.
Mm-hmm. And you may have sometimes many ideas of who would be an ideal surrogate for you, for the intended parents specifically. And it is also important when it comes to the timeline. For example, you may say, I have this list of, I would like somebody under the age of 35 with a healthy lifestyle and this specific state. But it is also important to discuss if some of this criteria is flexible, because it's going to impact the time that you're going to be waiting for your surrogate.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's move on to the next question. Will I be able to meet or communicate with the intended parents or the surrogate before agreeing to a match?
At the very beginning, it is not something that happens. You choose each other based on the profile. Once you've decided that you like to move forward, then we'll organize what's called a match meeting, and then you will get to meet your surrogate or your intended parent, and before we move forward with an official match. But you still have a chance to make a decision that you don't want to proceed. But typically at this point, it is just a confirmation that you like each other and that you're ready to move forward.
Yeah. And you can always ask questions when you see that profile too. I know a lot of times we get that where somebody's like, well, can we get more information about what kind of work is this surrogate doing? Or where do the intended, can I get more of an idea of where the intended parents live or what they're looking for? And so we're always happy to ask the other party for some clarification before moving forward with a match meeting, just so everybody is comfortable with a potential match.
Yeah, and I rarely see, I don't think I've seen this happen often, Susan, but I rarely see somebody change their mind after they meet each other.
So true. Yeah, I think it's just because our profiles are really thorough. Everybody does such a good job of completing their profile and really showing who they are in them. And then we're looking at so many different aspects when matching them. And then we do allow all those questions to go back and forth. And before our match meeting, our surrogate will always meet with the case manager who has been working with those intended parents. And she will guide them through what to expect and go over any questions they might have also. And so I think it's just, we encompass so much in our matching process that it's really rare for somebody to get to a match meeting and not go full force ahead.
It's usually such exciting moment, right? Everybody comes out of it like, oh, this was amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right, next question. Let's see. Susan, how long would you tell a surrogate that it takes for her to get matched when she comes into the program?
So this is probably the number one question that I get. And it just kind of depends. Everybody is different because it depends on a few things. So it depends on getting medical records and getting through the screening process, getting everything on file, creating that profile for the surrogate. So a lot of it is how quickly the surrogate is wanting to move, what her timeline looks like. And then, of course, how quickly we can get everything in order to make sure that she is qualified to proceed and with each fertility clinic. But I would say on average, we've had surrogates within 2 weeks of applying with us and having their Zoom consultation, looking at profiles and matching to 4 to 6 weeks before that happened. So it really is kind of timeline, and it's their matching preferences too. If we have a surrogate that is very particular, maybe she wants somebody in her state, and she wants certain criteria, or she wants a home birth or a birth center birth. That's going to take a little bit more time to match. It's not a no. It just is, as long as you're willing to be patient and wait for the right match, we can get there, but it does take a little bit longer in those situations. What about for the intended parents? How long is that process?
It also depends. It depends on what their preferences are. We touched a little bit about it earlier. If the intended parents are open to working with anybody in a surrogacy-friendly state, because that's the only places where we work, then the match is going to go faster. But if
Mhm.
the intended parents have specific preferences and they only want to stay within an area, or if they want to transfer two embryos instead of one, um, that is going to add to the time. The more requirements you have in your list, the longer it's going to take to match you. I'm proud to say that here in our program, the majority of our intended parents have been matched within 3 to 4 months of signing up
Mhm.
in our program with fully vetted surrogates. So what that means is the surrogates have already completed our vetting process. We have already reviewed their medical records. We've done psychological screening and lab testing. Um, but we have had intended parents wait longer, and they are the ones that have uh, um, more criteria, more preferences, and specifically when it comes to location or double embryo transfers.
Yeah. Yeah, double embryo transfers definitely can slow things down. And that's how I feel about on the surrogate side is more of like that out of hospital birth. That's where I see more of my surrogates waiting a little bit longer is when they have a different preference. So, which is, I feel like wait as long as you should to get the perfect match. So, I would rather, I know for me personally, I'd rather wait and have the perfect match than to rush into something and, be regretful and, wish that I had done something different. All right, let's see what our next question is. What type of support or advice do you provide throughout the matching process? Want to talk about what you guys do for the intended parents?
Yes, and you exactly just mentioned wait for the right match. Don't
Mhm.
rush it. Sometimes rushing things, I want to be matched within this certain time frame. You may end up with somebody who's perfectly suitable to be a surrogate, but not the right surrogate for you. So let the experts lead you in what we know may be the best situation for you, and remain flexible. Sometimes you may come with some ideas that are not necessarily going to be the best when it comes to moving forward with the surrogate. So I would just say remain flexible. We already do screening on our surrogates and we go by ASRM guidelines, and we're also going to obey by your fertility clinic requirements. So remain flexible so that you can have the best match possible. What about you, Susan? What do you tell your
Yep.
surrogates?
Same thing. Yeah. Definitely being flexible and open minded. I tell surrogates when I very first meet with them and we review their matching preferences, I always say the more open you are, the more profiles you see. And you may find somebody that you didn't think that you would ever want to match with. And they could be the perfect. I know for me, I didn't really consider international intended parents for my own personal journey, but I remained open. And then I had the best match with international intended fathers. And now, almost 10 years later, they're my best friends. And so I'm so glad that I remained open because once I read their profile, it was exact. I mean, they were clearly intended for me. I felt like, and so we tell them the same thing. The more you're flexible and the more open you are to looking at different profiles, you never know who's going to have the same interests and likes and personality and just shared beliefs and morals and things like that. And so I think when you kind of box yourself in, you might miss out on a really great match that you wouldn't have considered otherwise. And so we talk about that too. And we just offer support throughout. We share profiles, we listen to their feedback. You can always say no. It's totally okay to say no. We're here to support you and get the perfect match for you. And so we listen to the feedback and try to adjust when we're sending those next profiles over. And then of course they also our surrogates get to meet with that case manager that's been working with those intended parents before they meet with the intended parents. And it allows them the opportunity to ask any other questions that they haven't had answered yet and just get to know this case manager because after all, that's who's going to lead them throughout this whole entire process should they match with those intended parents. And so it's a good opportunity for them to get to know that person that's going to help them along the way, but also to hear more about what to expect with these intended parents and just kind of get some of those questions answered.
Yeah, and on that topic too, we can only present them with the surrogates that we have or the intended parents that we have, right? So sometimes it is good to know which things are absolutely non-negotiable and which things you are
Mhm.
flexible on. You can, of course, we want to match you with somebody who is ideal for you, and we want to listen to your preferences. Um, but as Susan said, if you box yourself in, then that you may be waiting for much longer. So as long as we know which things you are willing to be flexible with, if we have somebody who meets the entire criteria, fantastic. But if not, then we know, okay, here they are willing to remain flexible and consider these other options.
Yeah. And it's always good to give a lot of feedback too, especially when you're passing on a profile. I tell them, I'm like, I want to hear more about why you're passing than I want to hear about why you're saying yes to somebody. I love getting the yeses. I mean, it's so fun to hear because they're just so excited when they share about why they're saying yes. But the no's is really where we learn so much about what they want and who they are and what they're looking for. And it helps us really hone in on that perfect match. I think just being flexible, but also really upfront and open and sharing a lot of feedback is really good for our team also when it comes to matching.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, next question, Susan. How
Okay.
much information do I get about the intended parents before a match is finalized?
So I think they get quite a bit of information. You're going to see everything in their profile. It's going to talk about what they do, where they live. Obviously, we don't give specifics. We're not giving company names or cities or last names or anything like that. But it's a good amount of information in the profile that you're going to see off the bat about them. You're going to see photos. They're going to record a video about themselves. So you're going to get to hear their voices. They're going to write a letter to their future intended parents. And typically, when I'm reading through intended parent profiles, that's everything about what brought them to surrogacy, why they're here, what their journey has looked like beforehand, if they have children, how they had those children. And so there's so much information that you're really getting beforehand. And of course, you can ask those questions. And then during the match meeting, it's not only just to talk about making sure everybody's on the same page as termination and communication and how many embryos to transfer, but we're also talking about the getting to know you and asking those questions. What do you like to do on the weekends and the evenings? And just really getting to know each other really well. So I think that you've got a really good sense of who they are and what they want. And if you really are compatible with each other after that match meeting, I think really going into that match meeting, you have a lot of information to truly understand. But obviously, getting to really interact with them is the cherry on top of it all. But I think that they get a ton of information at that point. And then, of course, once we have a confirmed match is when you would get their contact information and can start communicating directly with each other.
And it's the same with the intended parents. You know, the intended parents get to see a profile of a surrogate, and that consists on a questionnaire. And you're gonna learn how many embryos they're willing to transfer, their stance on termination, where they are located, how many children they have, whether they had vaginal delivery, C-section,
Everything
everything.
so
And then you
much.
get to see their pictures and their video, and if you have questions too, you can always come to us, and the entire team will be able to get those answers for you. But you get a lot of information.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, by the time you get to the match meeting, you should feel that you know that person.
Mhm.
But you're still going to be nervous,
Yes.
because like a first date, right? You have so much anticipation for this moment, and you know about this person, but then you're going to have the team there to support you, so it doesn't feel too weird at the beginning.
Yes. I tell surrogates all the time, I'm like, it's gonna feel like a first date when you get on there. But also I tell our surrogates, the intended parents are just as nervous. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's nervous. It's the first time you're meeting this person that you're gonna potentially do this really huge life-changing journey with. And so it is nerve-wracking. It should be, because I mean, that just shows that you're really excited and you're really all in and you're really ready for this journey with each other. And so I think it's good to be excited. And like you said, the case manager will be there, or somebody, a member of our team will be on just facilitating that whole call to take out all those awkward moments, or at least aid and help in those awkward moments.
Yeah, break the ice.
Yes, yes. All right, our next question, Perla. What are my options if I don't think the intended parents or the surrogate that we've shared are the right match?
Well, first thing is communication, letting the team know that you don't believe this surrogate or this intended parent is a good match for you. And then, as Susan said earlier, feedback. Providing
Mhm.
feedback is really important. This is why. This is why I feel this is not the right person for me. We will take your feedback into consideration before we present you with another potential match. But it is ultimately your choice. You are both going to choose each other. In our program, the surrogates get the intended profiles first, and once the surrogates choose their intended parents, then the intended parents get the surrogates profile. So you're choosing each other.
Mhm.
But if after all of this you still feel that she's not the right match for you, or the intended parents are not the right match for you, we absolutely understand. We're here to help you have the journey that you deserve and you envision. And so we're going to look for other options for you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. So
agreed.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Um, After we've agreed to be matched, what are the next steps for surrogates?
Okay, so once you've agreed, you've signed your match agreement, the next step will be, of course, like I mentioned, exchanging information so you guys can start communication right away. That is something that we feel strongly about at Fairfax. So once you have been approved on paper by their fertility clinic with a record review, then we're going to share that information with each other so you guys can start building that relationship right from the beginning. From there, you're going to become a patient of their fertility clinic, and our case manager will help you walk through all that paperwork of becoming a patient there, and then they're going to schedule your medical screening. And so once that medical screening is scheduled at the fertility clinic, the case manager will book all the travel for every aspect, the hotel, the flight, all of that, and make sure that you're good to go, you're ready, you're fully prepared, you know what to expect when you get there. And then you've already also been in touch already with the fertility clinic, so you have your nurse coordinator who's also probably filled you in on what to expect and giving you tips. Sometimes they even tell you like the best restaurants to eat nearby, and give you tips on travel and all of that. So, and we're also doing the same for you. So that will be the next step following. And typically, that's usually, I would say, most times those medical screens are happening within, would you say, like a month to a month and a half following that match?
Oh, yes. And there are fertility clinics that are fitting the surrogate in even much earlier than that. It all
Yeah.
depends on your availability as well. So it's very
Mhm.
important that you let us know if you have any blackout dates.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we talked about that in the beginning with our surrogates. Is there going to be travel? Where are you going? When are you going? Of course, please do not travel internationally once you get started on this process because that can delay things. But yeah, even if you're traveling domestically, just letting us know when you're going so that we know that there's going to be some times that we may not be able to schedule you for something. But I know with my match, I matched and the next week I was at my medical screening. So
Oh,
it can be,
wow.
they're like, and can you come next week? I was like, okay. So having flexibility too is really important, and we talk about that a lot in
Yes.
the admissions process is being ready to go because a lot of it just depends on the surrogate cycle also, and that can be unpredictable at times. And so just being ready to go for those trips is important and being flexible. And of course, our case managers will support them the whole way through and make sure that they've got everything they need to be able to travel for those.
Yeah, yeah, and it's pretty much the same for the intended parents. First you choose each other via the profile, then we do a match meeting. After the match meeting, we're gonna request confirmation from both the surrogate and the intended parents that they like each other, they're ready to move forward, and we will formalize this match by signing what's called a match agreement. It just formalizes the relationship,
Mhm.
and then the case manager will take the coordination over at that point for everyone, and the case manager is going to send what's called a match sheet to the clinic, and the clinic is going to start communicating with the surrogate for this specific set of intended parents about when her cycle is and when they can schedule the medical screening appointment. And then you'll go in person to the medical screening appointment, whether it's locally or whether you have to travel. Most surrogates have to travel, right? And the intended parents, being that they are already set up with the fertility clinic, are going to receive communication from the fertility clinic directly informing them along the way about these appointments and the outcome. But the agency's role is to continue to coordinate, and we will also communicate to and let the intended parents know of travel arrangements, when your surrogate is arriving, where she's staying, in case you want to go to this medical screening
Mhm.
appointment or you want to check in with her as well. So once that match is formalized, we will put everybody in touch so you can start building a relationship. And once the medical screening is completed, we can move on to the legal contracts, which is another stage of the process that we can talk about later.
I was gonna say that's a whole nother
Yeah,
webinar.
that's another webinar. Another.
And then once legal is done, though, then things are really moving quickly, and we're
Mm-hmm,
scheduling that embryo transfer. So
mm-hmm.
it's really exciting. I feel like that match meeting is really what solidifies. I think for both parties, it's what really solidifies that this is happening, this is real, and it's just an opportunity to get really excited. I know we all, as a team, really celebrate even a match. I mean, babies being born are, of course, the biggest celebration ever, but our matches are just as big of a celebration for our team. It's really exciting to see a new match happen and know that another journey is starting.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's one of my favorite parts of the process because it becomes real now. You've been talking about it, but now you have this other person that is depending on you on both sides. And
Yeah.
so you put faces to the names and you start communicating. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm really
Yeah. This is actually finally happening. Yeah. And then you just get to look forward to a pregnancy and a baby at the end or babies.
yeah, yeah, yes.
As we know all about because we just had some babies born yesterday. So
We had twin girls born yesterday in our program. We're really excited. A shout out to our wonderful surrogate, Karina, and the intended parents that I'm going to keep confidential, but they are happy parents today, thanks to her. And we're just so honored to have been part of this wonderful journey.
yeah, it's really exciting and some cute little baby girls, I have to say.
Yes, they are
So
adorable.
cute. They really are. We love the baby pictures too.
Yes, we do. We do. Um, let's see. I think that
Let's see
is all the questions we have
yeah, I
today.
haven't seen anything else pop up.
I don't think so. But yeah, in summary, I mean, we have a very comprehensive matching process, and we
Mhm.
work as a team. We take into consideration the intended parents' preferences, the surrogate preferences. Sometimes we may not have somebody who meets all of the criteria, but the idea is that we all communicate, remain flexible, remain open to ideas, and the more criteria, the longer list you have, the longer you will be waiting. And just keep in mind that we do our due diligence with our surrogates and intended parents, and we ask all the questions in advance. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Susan?
No, I think we've covered everything when it comes to matching. It's like I said, it's one of my favorite aspects of the process is matching and just seeing those relationships blossom from the very first time that they get to look at each other's profiles. Really, I know that I saved my intended father's profile all these years later because it was just I love looking back and remembering the first time I saw them and read their story and heard about them, and it was just really exciting. And so I it's one of my favorite things to talk about. I'm glad I got to do that today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Susan, for the role that you play in matching our surrogates and intended parents, and you do a fantastic job. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And if you have any questions about our matching process or anything about surrogacy in general, please feel free to email us to info@fairfaxsurrogacy.com. And we look forward to meeting with you for the next time for our next Q&A session. Thank you, Susan.
Bye.
Bye.